All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Backyard Slinging Podcast. This week we have a new guest. This is Army veteran and a cowboy mounted shooter, the Marc Hudson. Welcome, Mark.
How's it going?
It's going all right. How are you?
We've been trying to get this thing together for like I don't know what, couple of months now. Like we've been
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
this, so it's
That's
like
kind of like how when we were trying to meet the first time, we like messaged on and off for
right,
like
right, right,
a
right,
couple
right.
months from a mutual friend, and then we finally met. You were doing a demonstration down there in Middletown.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's funny because like you know, years ago, a buddy of mine and I were at an event, and we're talking with this guy come by, this older gentleman come by, and he's like, we're talking about we were selling beef and at the Great American Trail Horse Sale, and this guy comes by
Okay.
and he's like talking to us and just hanging out. And he asked us, he said, "Are you guys?" We were talking about having horses, and he goes, "You guys feeding horses or riding horses?" And I'm like, "What?" I said, "I guess I'm doing both." Why? And he goes, "Well, you're lucky." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "You have time to feed them and ride them."
Yeah, yeah,
And it was just like it's like life seems to always get in the way. You just got to make time for it, but you know.
yeah, yeah. I get that for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, thanks for having me on here. I really appreciate it, man. I appreciate you reaching out and like giving me an opportunity to talk about some of the things that I've been doing and some of the things I'm trying to do and some of the things I want to do and all that
Oh
kind of
yeah,
stuff.
that's yeah, no problem at all. And like I'm not sure if I said it in other episodes, and people might, watching my stuff, they might think, oh, he's like all over the place because I've talked about, baseball, football. We got the Western stuff, but then the last episode I had out was a Star Wars episode. So I mean, I'm
Hey
just
man,
all over the
hey,
place.
hey,
So
May the 4th was a couple of weeks ago, so yeah,
yeah,
and it's funny too. It's funny the things the things, the commonality that bring us together. I mean, I'll admit
oh yeah,
I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm a huge
oh
Star Wars
awesome,
fan
dude.
because that's like that's some of the first movies I saw in the movie theater was Star Wars, and I've been like
Yep.
I watched them all, and we could do a whole nother episode on Star Wars and nerding out on Star Wars.
Oh, we'll definitely have to do that. That reminds me, like watching them as a kid, because I don't know if my mom would like telling me the story about it, but when she was a little kid, she saw the first one in theaters,
Right? Yeah.
and she told us she would tell me the story like she went to the dentist office and they gave her like the gas, and then she just automatically went like she was like Luke Skywalker flying an X-wing while they're trying to work on her teeth.
So yeah, I mean, it's funny because like if again, going down a rabbit hole and nerding out on Star Wars, but Star Wars when the first ones came out, it was loosely based on a spaghetti western.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
the whole deal with Star Wars. I mean, like if you've seen again, like man, we're going down a rabbit hole here. If you've seen like the Book of Boba Fett, the new series
Yeah.
they have out, with uh with Timothy Oliphant, he literally picks up that the role that like the Deadwood that like he's in that, and
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
very much that spaghetti western feel to it, and that's why I don't know. I think that's why I dig Star Wars because it's a blend of spaghetti western and the old samurai films. It's just
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't even think about it that way. A lot of people don't even think about the fact
No.
that it's like it's a space cowboy movie, man.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, so I guess we could start kind of maybe getting us a little bit back on track here a little bit. So you served in the army
Yep.
and you did active duty, I'm sure.
I was active duty reserve, and National Guard. I hit
Okay.
all three. I was on active duty for a while. Got off active duty. Wasn't even off terminal leave yet, and really missed it. Really missed the lifestyle. Really missed the the just the sense of being, I guess. So
Right.
went back into reserves. At the time, I was managing a horse farm in Middleburg. I just got off active duty, and I was managing a horse farm in Middleburg. That wasn't doing it for me. I was just really struggling with life and all that kind of stuff. And this was way before September 11th. I shouldn't say way. I mean, it was
Okay.
like a couple of years before. It was like late 90s. Um, went into reserves, and then got was doing that, and then got recruited into the guard in kind of a weird way. I was at AP Hill doing some stuff, or now I guess it's Fort Walker now, but AP Hill at the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and bumped into some guys there, and they're like, "Hey, you ever thought about going?" Because I was an infantry guy on active
Right.
duty. I was 11 Bravo, and when I was in the reserves, I was a civil affairs guy, 38 Alpha, and they're like, "Hey, have you thought about going back to combat arms?" And we talked about it, and one of the guys that was there, it was part of the special forces unit, and I
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, maybe I'll try that. And it never panned out, never worked out, but I made it in the guard. And when I got there, I was like, what did I do? And then later in life, I got activated, deployed, um, I was on orders a bunch. Like I worked up at National
Okay.
Guard Bureau for a while. Um, and then I guess later in my career, like it's funny, like I never really talk about that side of it because I just kind of, I don't know, I never really talk about my guard time or any of that
Right.
time in the military, even though I did a lot. Um, I went to, I went to, I went to Intel school, became a all source analyst,
Hmm.
and then that's kind of what led me to what I'm doing now. Um, but during that whole time, I got really jaded with the military, really jaded with the guard, just really like, wasn't
Yeah.
happy with it. Then I decided to get out, and I decided I was going to do 25 years, and I got out at 22. And like I said, I haven't really talked about this part of it with a lot of people, but at 22, I was at 22 years, I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. And I just quit. And it's weird how I say that because I tell folks all the time, words are important, and how you phrase it is how you view it. And like I just in my mind I quit. I was like, I'm
Right.
done. I'm tired of the BS. I'm tired of everything. I'm just done. I had a vision of what I wanted to do, and there was a perceived whatever, either on my part, on the part of my leadership, on the part of the people I worked with, but there was a perception there that, real or not, made it uncomfortable for me.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? The hell with this. I'm tired of it. And I quit. And even though I did 22 years,
Yeah.
I did
Right.
22
Right.
years, but I still felt like I quit. You know, I met everything. I had you know, had my retirement packet. I had my time in. I had everything I needed, but I was just like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And
Yeah.
I took, in my mind, I took the easy way out. And I tell you, man, it really had an emotional and psychological and probably even a physical effect on me right after that. Um, and again, I haven't really talked about that in a while. I haven't talked about that in a while. Um,
Yeah.
right before
I'm.
that time period, I had a lot of people that I knew, and I hate to say it this way because I hate to say a lot, but it was like probably, I was talking to my wife about this yesterday. Um, a lot of had a lot of friends that were taking their own lives, you know,
Yeah.
and it was more than I was like, wow, I'm like, the system's broken, everything's broken, and I was just like, and I was like, I'm done with this. And so that was in 2014. So yeah, so like 11 years ago, and I'm just now getting around to, like, I don't really interact with anybody that I was in the guard with.
Right.
I interact with a bunch of folks I was on active duty with, like back in the day, like, and I shouldn't say a bunch, but a handful. We have a Facebook
Nah.
group that we kind of
Right.
like,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a Facebook group that we're all part of, and we kind of talk back and forth of it on it. And you know, uh, Facebook. I have a lot of my friends on Facebook are from my military days, but I don't really interact with a lot of veterans, but not people that I actually served with. And I think that's haven't
Yeah.
really thought of haven't really
I'm
thought
kind
about
of
that.
the same way, really. I mean, off the top of my head, I think from my unit, because I only did 8 years in the reserves. I went overseas once, but I only regularly talked to two or three,
Hmm. Yeah.
and regularly is like we might text each other once a week or something.
Yeah.
So, but other
Yeah.
than that, it's people that I meet other places like you, um, and another guy that I actually met, actually really met a couple months ago, and I'm definitely going to try to get him on here. Um, he turns out he was a Green Beret in the '90s.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and like he was down in like South America doing all the secret squirrel stuff and everything. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah, man.
definitely going to try to have him on because looking at this guy, you would never know. You wouldn't be able to tell because he's a chaplain now where I work.
Oh, yeah. 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 I mean,
So
it's so interesting, like the path that we go down and get on. Like I had a like yesterday, I have I've been fortunate to meet some folks in my life. They like people come in and out of my life, and like I met some guys like a person that really has kind of like is so interesting, and he's always this guy is like always like there to like when I need something or when I need a message.
hmm
Weirdly, he's there to like
he's
give it,
got it. Yeah.
and I'm gonna like I said, we don't talk hardly as we don't talk nearly as much as as we should,
Right. Yeah.
but it's my buddy Jason Swick, man. And Jason, I mean, I'm gonna give him a plug over here. He's got Day Six Ranch. He does some growth and human development stuff. I mean, like phenomenal guy, man. Phenomenal guy. I highly recommend folks check it out. I did a growth growth program with him a couple of months ago. I think it was last year we did it. Really great. He just did a thing at NRS. But yeah, I mean, so I met him um, oddly enough through a podcast.
Cool.
He used to do a podcast, and then I got hooked up with some guys that are people that he knew and whatnot, and we all go to Road to the Horse together. And like you know, Jason's former law enforcement, and then there's a couple other guys there that are former military. And like I was on the phone with one of them yesterday, and like I look forward to seeing those guys when I go.
Yeah.
Like I look forward
Yeah.
to seeing, and never served with them, never did anything with them, but we're all like-minded people, and we're all in the Western sports industry or Western industry or Western world, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I look every year for Road to the Horse. I look forward to like I go out there and volunteer and work and I mean everybody's like, oh, Road to the Horse is so cool, but I mean we work, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but I enjoy it because I get a chance. It's a chance for me to hang out with those guys, a chance for me to visit with them, you know,
Yep.
and it's funny, like you said, guys that you never even served with, but you have a commonality and you just kind of hit it off, like
Oh yeah, for sure. That's like um, guys that I work with at the sheriff's office. I mean, there's one guy I didn't know who he was. He's just a new guy one day, and like, oh, you're in the army? Cool, me too. And then we're the closest on our squad now, and that was within like 2 weeks of
Uh,
him being there.
yeah, totally, man. Like you and I were talking about trying to get together on this podcast. I mean, I'm a firm believer that people are put in your life for a purpose. It's your job to figure out what that purpose is.
Right.
Like, I don't know what, religious convictions or whatever, but like, you know, so everybody believes something different. I consider myself a fairly religious person. I believe, I believe that, you know, God. are works in ways that everything's put in your path for a reason. There's a purpose why it's put in your path. And it's
Right.
interesting you say that about being close to that squad mate of yours. Um, where we live, my next door neighbor um, was in federal government as well, and he retired a couple of years ago. He was a volunteer firefighter, a phenomenal guy. Like we became really good friends over the time we've lived here. And he retired and he moved away and was selling his house. And my wife and I were really sad about that. And he was a
Right.
really
Yeah.
good neighbor, and
It's
we
hard
known
to
him a
find
long,
those.
yeah, known him a long time. Well, literally today, right? Prime example today. I go over. I'm trying to get my wife's trying to. We're trying to get some stuff cleaned up because I'll get into this in a little bit about some things we want to do here. But my wife was like, "Oh, I got to go do this," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll help you, but you got to do this first." So I take a bunch of stuff and set it up for her so she can, she's cutting the grass, she's cutting the fence lines, and I got to go do some stuff with the bush hog and all that. But anyway, I go down and she's talking to the new neighbor that came in, the guy that is him and his wife just bought this place. Awesome guy. Really, just met him. He's a firefighter. And he was like, because we had our horses out in one of the fields next that borders our property, and he was talking about. He's like, yeah, he goes, uh, his nephew's going to come live with him for a little bit. He's like, yeah, he's really into the cowboy stuff and all that. And I was like, oh, really? I said, yeah. So, man, I'm like, we do all this stuff. And he's like, no way. He goes, everybody
Yeah.
around here seems to do English. And I'm like, nah, man, we do, this is
Yeah.
what we do. And he was just like, I mean, like we exchanged numbers and again, he just moved in next door. He's a firefighter. I'm like, dude, I do stuff with first responders all the time. And he was like, "Oh man, I definitely we got to get together and we got to do stuff." And
Oh yeah.
it's weird how that happens. It's just like you start
Yeah.
you carry on a conversation and you take a minute to talk to somebody and it's amazing what you'll find.
Oh yeah. Definitely. And like, I'm sure we'll get into that later when we talk about stuff that we want to do. But if we could back it up a little bit here, like, how did you get into, like the Western stuff, the horse stuff? Like, did you grow up with it, or is it
Yeah, I mean,
just
I joke and say that I've been trying to get out of horses longer than I've tried to get in them. Um, growing up at a very very young age, I just had a natural love for them, or just a natural
right?
love for the lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah.
And uh my dad is a bit of an entrepreneur. um and he is a diesel mechanic by trade. That's what he did for a long time. um but he bought and sold. My dad likes to trade. My dad likes
Okay.
to my
Okay.
dad likes to trade. My dad likes to buy and sell stuff, and he worked for an auction company for a long time doing prep work and setting stuff up and getting the stuff ready. And during that time period, um he bought and sold horses and cattle and all this kind of stuff, and I just got exposed to it through that and got to meet some really cool people down in South Carolina. um uh, One of which was the gentleman who basically instilled what I do with the colonial Spanish horses we have, the Carolina Marsh Tackies.
Yep.
Grew up with him. He took me to my first cutting when I was a little kid. Sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago. He just kind of he kind of put it there. There was another gentleman that introduced me to roping when I was a little kid. He was a team roper down in South Carolina, actually North Carolina. But I met him and he was taught me how to rope, and when I was a little kid, and didn't really cowboying in South Carolina is a big different than cowboying everywhere else. So I didn't
Yeah.
really have the finer points of all of it. So basically, it's been a journey, man. I started when I was a kid, and I joined the army, and I wanted to be an airborne ranger, and I'm a weak swimmer, and that didn't work out so well for me. Um, and wound up in the old guard. here in DC.
Okay. Yeah.
And horses have always been an escape for me too. Like it's funny, like it's always been an escape. Like whenever I had a bad day when I was a kid, I'd go tack a horse up and I'd go ride like 15 miles.
Yeah.
I'd go ride to my buddy's house. Be like, hey, I'm gonna come over. Get on my horse and go ride. Like it was just like I don't think you
Yeah.
do that today. I don't think kids do that anymore. But like I
Oh
would
no.
literally pack my horse up and tell my mom I was leaving. Be like, bye.
Yeah. I mean that I would consider that awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I would just I'd go ride the dirt roads and I'd be gone for hours, or I'd be gone for like overnight.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, you just don't do that anymore. But yeah, so I joined the army, got here in the old guard, and they're like, we got horses, and I was like, I can do that. So I rode horses for the army,
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
then got burnt out on that, and got again. I was like, was gonna get out, and I was like, there was a girl involved, and there was other, just stupid stuff in my life, and I was like, I'm getting out of the military, and I got out and wound up managing a horse farm. Like all things, I want to manage a horse farm, and then that put a bad taste in my mouth about horses, because if you ever worked in the horse industry, I mean, it can be good and bad.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just kind of like I didn't really know what I was doing. Um, so it's all like building blocks to who I am today. Like
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
I'd change any of it. But all that being said, I'd been around it forever. When I got ready to retire, I was having some other issues. I was having some emotional, just some mental issues and stuff.
No.
And I remember like going to, I was coming off orders and I did a physical, and one of the ladies I talked to, she's like, "What do you like to do for fun?" And I was like, "I don't know. I like to hunt. I like to ride horses." And she goes, "You should look at equine therapy." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." I got them in my backyard. I don't, yeah, yeah. Equine therapy hit different for me because, I grew up around it, and it's like, I don't want to ride around in a circle and talk about my feelings, you
Right.
know. But I'll tell you, I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, if your mind's not right and you're dealing with a horse, the horse will definitely show it.
They're gonna let you know.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, they're an ideal tool, but it's just a matter of how do you use that tool? And I think like talking about the things I want to do. So I mean, I've got my little shirt on here. Operation Tacked Up
Yeah.
was an
Yeah.
idea that I came up with years ago. It's like equine therapy is great, but what's next? Um, and some people will be like, oh man, oh you don't know, oh god, but like the world needs another nonprofit, like it needs a hole in the head. I think a friend of mine, told me a couple of years ago we were having this conversation, and he said that I don't know if this number is correct, but he said there were 42,000 veteran non light or
Wow.
licensed or whatever. Well, I guess whatever the process is to be a nonprofit, there were 42,000 of them,
Wow.
and we still have a problem. We still have issues
Yeah.
with veterans. I mean, so it just kind of like I was going to make Operation Tacked Up a nonprofit, and it seemed like I tried to get an accountant. Every accountant I've talked to, like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? It's such a pain to, like, I've had
Yeah.
more people be negative toward it than to be
Mhm.
positive toward it. Been like, oh, well, hey, let me help you. And I'm like, hey, I want to set this up. How much is it going to cost me? What do I need to do? And immediately try to talk you out of it. So I was just like, you know what?
Exactly.
I'm just gonna I'm gonna do it, and I've turned it into like a little club. And if anybody, I mean, it sucks because a lot of it comes out of my own pocket.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, but like a couple of years ago, so kind of getting into kind of a little more on what I do. Like the two things I do a bunch now is I like to rope, and
Mhm.
team roping. I dabbled in that a little bit, tried to do that a little bit, and my horse, I never had the right horse. I never
Yeah.
had the right horse for what I wanted, so I always had to make the right horse. And then I kind of got out of the team roping and was like, oh, I can do mounted shooting. Mounted shooting's really cool, and I was like, I can do that, and I got a horse who'll do it. And so I kind of bounced back and forth between roping and shooting, and then got into ranch roping. And I've always been aware of it and been a fan of it. But like I said, when I was a little kid, someone taught me how to rope, and I've
Yeah.
always been around guns, and I've always been around horses. It's always been like a thing that's kind of. I was like, those are two things that I gravitated to, and cattle, working cattle. I just enjoy like it's a it's definitely when you work cattle on horseback, you it does wonders for the horse for one. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does wonders for the horse because it gives him a focal point to where he can I mean, I've noticed leaps and bounds with the horse I ride when I started working cattle. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity um, right as I was retiring, and then
Okay.
a really good friend of mine was running an operation in Middleburg and just really kind of I mean, he's a he's I mean, I have a younger brother, but this guy's the closest thing to a brother I have outside of family. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
he is you know, and he's originally from Cody, Wyoming, and we just kind of he was like, hey, come on out here, hang out, let's do this, let's do that, and it's weird. We become we had become really good friends, and now almost 15 years later. Oh, well, maybe not that long. Maybe yeah. I mean, it seems like forever, but yeah. I guess I met him, and I guess it was '07, '08 when I met him, and like I said,
Okay. Yeah.
we've been friends ever since, and just kind of it's just been an experience, man. So yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, for me, like horses and stuff, like I like grew up like my grandfather. I spent a lot of time at his house,
Hmm.
and it was just always the John Wayne movies,
Hmm.
Bonanza, all those old Western shows, Clint Eastwood, and I lived in town with my mom, and it was rough on like the money side for us. So there was really never the opportunity for me to get into it until I was about 20. And my mom, she always hit me. Well, she hit me with this thing. She's like, "You remember when you were a little kid? You told me there's three things that you're gonna do when you grow up." She's like, "You want to play baseball, you want to be in the military, and you want to ride bulls." Well, by then I've done two of the three. I served in the military and I played baseball my whole life up until that point. And then she's like, "Well, I got you into a bull riding school with Gary LeFew."
Oh, cool, man.
So I went, and Gary, he was awesome. He's a very good teacher. I just suck at bull riding. So I, I mean, I did. I rode. I think I got on seven bulls that weekend, and I ended up riding one, which I think pretty decent for
Oh
not
yeah, yeah.
ever
For
doing anything like that.
right. From
Um,
going from nothing to
yeah,
I'm gonna
and then
ride bulls.
and then at that point, I'm like, how do I get off of this thing now? I got off completely the wrong way, but it's whatever.
I was getting ready to say, I think after the first, because I have, everybody goes to the stage, man. I've been on too many. Yeah, I've been on too many. The first one I got on, and I was young. I was probably still in high school, with both of them, and no, not for me, man. Not for me. Not for me.
Yeah,
So for you to get on seven in one day,
yeah,
my hat's off to you. Because like I said, I got on two, and
yeah,
one was one day and one was another day, and I'm like, I'm never doing this again. Never
yeah.
doing it again.
Well, I ended up not doing it after that day for a couple years until was it 2020? I think it was. and they were still doing all the county fairs around here because I mean people they just didn't care. Like we're still going to the fair, we're still going to the rodeo.
Right.
So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I ended up getting on 3 that summer. Didn't ride any of them, but I think my longest one might have been like 3.5 seconds. But
Oh yeah. Yeah.
um,
I mean, hey, yeah, 3.5.
it
I mean,
seems like a lot longer
right
when
for
you're
my
watching it,
for my
but
experience, just from the two that I, and again that was years ago, but I feel like on the first one, I was like, okay, I can do this. And I feel like
yeah,
I was on there for like for like 5 minutes,
yeah,
and I was trying to get off the entire time. I'm like, no, no, this is not going. I mean, I was like, I got it, I got it, I got it. And the second one I got on, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I mean, I vaguely remember it, but I just, I'm sure if you'd asked me like shortly thereafter it happened, and be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I rode that one." No, no, no. Looking back on it and being honest with myself now,
yeah,
yeah, I was trying to figure out how to untie the rope as soon as the gate opened.
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, something. Whenever those 3 that I got on at the actual rodeos, I don't know what it is, but like I'm like leading up to it, I was like, yeah, like a little nervous. But as soon as you put that first foot in there and you're sliding down on, it's just like everything just would go out of my mind, and it was just me and the bull, and I was like completely calm, like no emotions, no nothing. And it's like as soon as like the gate opened, it'd be like in slow motion. And the funny thing is, the last one I rode, watching the video, it looks pretty rough on the buck off. But seriously, the thought that was going through my head, because somehow my right knee ended up on his head and I was like over his neck. But the thought that was going through my mind, because my hand was like on his hump, I was like, this bull is so soft. That's what was going through my mind in the moment. I was like, what is wrong with me?
And it's funny you say that too, because like, it's very interesting because like, anxiety is a natural thing. Like we
Right.
all have anxiety.
Yep.
I let mine get away from me for a while. I still do a little bit, just from experiences in life and whatnot. And people don't talk about it, but like, I think the level of anxiety in, someone told me one time, and I forgot who it was, but I just remember them saying, I was talking about a horse or something. I can't, I don't even remember that. And I was talking about that, I was like, hey, I said, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little afraid of this horse.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if you're not afraid, then, you know, then then you really got to start worrying about, like, you got to ask yourself why you're doing it, because
Yeah.
like, I he goes, that's a healthy respect for the horse, because, I mean,
Hmm.
the horse was a little rough. Like I say, I remember the horse, and I'd come off a really bad accident. I was when I Right after I got out of the military, I was trying to, you know, I money was tight, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was struggling on a lot of things, and I was trying to make every penny I could, and I was putting the first ride on horses for people, and I had a cheap saddle, and it's funny, like, quality gear is important, and I
Yeah.
learned that really early. I had a really cheap saddle, and the rigging blew apart on me, and like this horse started bucking and just blew apart on me, and it was a bad wreck. I mean, thankfully, thankfully I didn't get hurt really
Yeah.
badly. Like, I didn't break anything. I bruised some ribs, and and you know, and the day it happened, I remember. I remember a lady comes over, and she said, we were talking about it, and I was like, "Ah, okay," and she's like, she bought the horse, and she wanted me to ride. She wanted me to be the first one to get on it because she was a little nervous about it, and I was like. I was like, man, that went terribly wrong. And my saddle's in pieces, and I'm like, okay, well, I gotta saddle her back up, and she brought a little saddle back out here, she brought a little saddle out, and you know, I was like, that went terribly wrong, and I can't leave this horse like that because this horse is like, and I get to
Right.
talking to this lady, and I don't think the horse was broke. You know, I think she
Yeah.
bought it from somebody, and this was like, this is 20, 30 years ago. This is probably, yeah, it's 30, yeah, probably late 90s. Um, and it was just like, and I had to, I mean, I just had to, I was in the moment, I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
got to do what I got to do to do right by this horse. And like, I was afraid during that time, and the anxiety kind of got me, and I was like, man, I'm hurting. I mean, I was
Yeah.
hurting. I was hurting at the time because I came off and I hit like a ton of bricks. And it's my own fault. It was my own. I had no one to blame. I had no one to blame but me. And that's something that I have really kind of stepped up and done lately is taking ownership
Yeah.
of life. And I had no one to blame but me. I should have done more with the horse before I got on it. I should have had. I look back on the things I should have had. Should have made sure I had better quality gear, um, a better quality saddle. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally tore that saddle down after it happened, and I reinforced everything in there. This is before YouTube. I was a gentleman that I met years ago, and he was a veteran and did some saddle work. And I was like, hey, and I don't have much money, but I'm trying to. He's like, here. He loaned me some tools, told me what to do. I pulled it apart, and I put the heaviest rigging in there I could find. I was like, I did it. I was like, this is never happening again. And like, it just kind of, it was a lesson learned. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then when you move forward in life, like now, I see so many people that want to get into horses and the equine therapy part of it, and you just you have people that are, I mean, I hate to say it, are all sunshine and roses, and they're like, okay, come on, here you go, let's go
Yeah.
ride around on a horse, and they don't tell you like, okay, hey, this is why it's important to have decent made stuff. This
Yeah.
is why it's important to spend the money. I I hear people all the time say, they say cool stuff. What is it? Cool stuff's not cheap, and cheap stuff's not cool, or something like that. And
Yeah.
and like, I mean, I kind of don't like that, but in the same token, I mean, you when you're dealing with horses, I mean, you really got to have, like, you got to make sure it's like anything else. It's like being in the military, man. PMCS. You got
Yep.
PMCS, and
Yep.
you got to PMCS your gear, and preventative maintenance care. That's what PMCS stands for. But like, you gotta PMCS your gear, and then again, like I keep going back to the military and all that, and then the two just fit together. The two really
Yeah.
fit together.
I definitely see it. I mean, I yeah use it almost every day. Stuff that I've learned in the military, because it's applicable,
Yeah,
and a lot of times it seems like it's more applicable in the civilian world than it was in the military. It just seems like it fits into places more. I think it's a very good baseline of like how to think about things and how to get away around problems and stuff like that.
yeah. I
So
mean, and it's like when you get to the Western world and the military world, really, there's a lot that they blend a lot. They
yeah,
blend a lot.
yeah,
There's just there's certain traditions or certain, we'll call them pageantries or whatever you want to call them. But there's certain things that bleed over. Like, you know, I'm 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 very interested in history, and like I like how the blend of, like, why do people do certain things? Why do
yep,
people like why do you like where does it stem from, right? Like, um why do we get on the right side? I'm sorry. Why
Left side.
why
Yeah.
don't we get on the right side?
Right.
And if and then my brain was thinking faster than I was speaking. Sorry. Um, why do we get on the left side? Well, most people are right-handed,
Yep.
and when you stop and think about that, if you're right-handed and you go to draw a saber,
Yep.
your saber is going to be on
On
your
the
left
left.
hip because you have
Yep.
to draw it across your body. If your saber was on your right hip and you tried to mount a horse, it would be impossible to do that. So that's part of why we get on the left, why we get on from the left,
Right.
because it stems from having a saber. I mean,
Yep.
it's not to say you can't get on. It's not to say you can't get on from the right,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's like most people. I'm left-handed, but everything I do on horseback is on the right.
Hmm.
Like I ride left-handed, I rope right-handed, I shoot right-handed.
Okay.
But it's just because I ride with my left hand. I was taught from a very early age to ride with my left hand.
Yeah.
So
And
and people
yeah.
don't stop and think, they don't stop to think about why. Like why do I do that? And I always ask the question why.
Yeah. So let's see. I guess we're getting a little up there on our time here. If we see if we can get into,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like you
yeah,
said, the stuff that we're trying to get going here. Because I know both of us are kind of along the same lines of the kind of stuff that we want to do.
yeah.
It's just trying to find, the other people and, uh, I guess, to garner the interest from, I guess the public, for lack of a better term.
So yeah, so with Operation Tacked Up, let me talk about that for a minute. Like I said, I
Yeah.
started it. I started it back. Um, it was an idea, and it's still just kind of an idea. It was just kind of like-minded people getting together to do certain things. Like it's like okay, equine therapy is great, but what's next? So mounted shooting is something I do. Roping something I do. Trail ride a little bit. I've been very fortunate where I've been able to do a lot horseback. Um, and I just wanted to share that with people, like anybody that wanted to come out and like, hey, come out and check out a mounted shoot. Hey, come out and check out the roping, and um, and just trying to foster that. And I started doing a lot on the ground because I noticed a lot of people, you know, they may have a horse, they may not have a horse, or their
Yep.
horse might not be ready for that. They may not be,
Yeah.
it's like, I want a rope. And they go out and they think that just because they want a rope and they got a horse,
That the
they got a
horse is
roping
ready.
horse.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's a recipe for disaster. Or, you know, I want to do mounted shooting. I got a horse.
Yep.
I got a gun. I'm going mounted shooting. Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
hey, it might work out for you. It
Yeah.
might
You
work
could
out
get
for you.
lucky.
And,
Yeah.
great. That's wonderful. But if it doesn't, then it's going to put a bad taste in your mouth. You'll be like, I'm never going to do that again. So
Right.
I started doing stuff on the ground. I started doing a bunch of gun safety stuff, just introduction to you know, we do so much on the ground with horses. Why not do it with ourselves? So
Yep.
anyway, so yeah, so a couple of things that I have been trying to get going I want to do some dummy ropings. There's a bunch of people that have started doing dummy ropings. There were some that I was involved in that just kind of went a certain way, and I wasn't what I wanted. Wasn't what I was into. Didn't really like the direction. I kind of distanced myself from them, and I was like, I'm not doing that. Um,
Yeah.
and I just kind of let it go. And again, now I'm kind of getting back to the point where like, all right, I'm gonna do I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. So
Exactly.
I want to do some
Yeah.
dummy ropings. I have some really good friends that are behind me 100%, and they're like, we can do them here. And it's just fun time to do them. One of the other things that I am actively involved in is mounted shooting. There's a club here in Virginia. There's a mounted shooting club. A lot of people may or may not know about it. Everybody, like you and I have talked about, like what is it, bulls and barrels, right? Bulls and
Yep.
barrels. So like, there's a lot more in Virginia West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina. Like there's a ranch roping they do down in North Carolina. There's one coming up on the 26th down in Galax that's three
Okay.
man doctrine. And just kind of making people more aware there are other things out there with rodeo has become so the PBR is not rodeo. I mean, it's
Right.
bull riding. It's
Yeah, yeah.
it's bull riding, and I'm not taking anything away from it. Those guys, I mean, they're, they're tough as nails, man. They are hardcore. They are they're athletes. But
Yep.
it's
And
got
I actually on that, I think the World Finals actually started this week.
right, yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
But it's like everybody sees that and it's like, oh, bull riding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there's varying degrees of cowboy, and nowadays you'll find a lot of guys bull riding. They've never really been around horses. They just
Right. Yeah.
they bull ride, and
Yep.
that's it. But like there's more to horses there's more to cowboying than just that. So like and then
Yeah.
there's more to horses. Like I'm a firm believer that riding is only probably 25% of horsemanship. Like learning how to take care of one, learning how to like spot different things, like
Yeah.
different things with their feet, learning how to doctor them, learning how to bandage them, learning how to like feed them properly, learning how to like just handle them properly. Like there's so many, and again, I mean, there's just so many things you can talk about with it. There's just so much stuff, and like
Yeah.
you get people, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get people involved in ground activities
Yep.
that will help them become more vested in the horse world. Like when I first started roping, I was told I had to catch a dummy 25 times in a row before I could even get on a horse. Like I had to catch it 25 times in a row before I could get on a horse.
Yeah.
So I had to start at a dummy, and they were like, "No." And then it was like dragging a log. You had to like I had to understand how to manipulate the rope, and these are all things. And I got away from them, and I'm taking lessons from a phenomenal person up in Middletown that we're taking lessons and doing stuff, and she's helping me. Like we're working on we worked last time I was up there. We worked on log, and there's things that
Mm-hmm.
like she just had to tell me. She's like, "Oh, you got to do." I'm like, "Oh, damn! I remember this. I remember having to do this when I was a kid, but I didn't understand what I was doing."
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, so like these are all the things that like these are things that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get people involved in, and just the biggest thing I've had over the years, and you and I have talked about this, having a place to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
mean, you know, I,
yeah.
I joke and I say we're trying to carve a horse farm out of a forest, but having a place to do it, having access to, I have horses, but like,
An
having
arena.
yeah,
And say if you do have enough space for an arena, then you still have to have space for parking and a couple of other things that you need. So
yeah, yeah.
it's a lot.
And I hate to say it, but like, when you start getting in this kind of stuff, it takes a lot to operate a facility like that. It takes money to
Yeah.
operate a facility like that. And
Yeah.
people that have stuff like that, they'll gladly let you use it, but it's going to cost you money and it's going to
Yep.
cost you all these things. And that was probably one of the only reasons I have contemplated making Operation Tacked Up a nonprofit, is to be able
Right.
to give folks the ability to write stuff off on their taxes as being a 501c3, or being able to ask for donations. But like again, I have another view on that where I mean,
Yeah.
like if I'm going to ask you for a donation, if I'm going to ask you for something, it's because I've used your product, and I'm going to invest in you. If you're
Right.
going to invest in me, I'm going to invest in you. Like there are certain things that I like I ride Team Equine saddle pads. Um,
Okay.
I don't do a good enough job endorsing them. They're phenomenal pads, and they're a great pad. And I you know, I I spend money with them, but I don't do it. I mean, because I've gotten social media. I've social media is a necessary evil, but I'm trying to get away from it.
Right.
And I throw this pad on there, and I mean it's the only pad I go to. It's my go-to pad. I put it on, and but I don't, I think, and it's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword. I think we spend too much time trying to promote ourselves and trying to promote things than we do trying to enjoy the stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to a friend of
And
mine about
yeah.
like TikTok, right? I was
Yep.
like it like setting up TikTok videos like takes you like I guess setting it. I guess setting them up takes longer than doing them. So it's like if you have time, I mean, I don't have time to do that. Like every time I look around, like I was trying to like so another plug. Here's a plug that I'm gonna do. So August 9th at Mountain Run Winery in Culpeper, we're doing a Wild West show. Okay,
Okay.
so again, we're doing a mock gunfight. We're gonna have a period blacksmith there. Um, we're gonna do a mounted shooting demonstration. I'm trying to get some folks from the local mounted shooting club to come and actually answer questions about it. I mean, I can answer questions about it. Most of us involved in the Wild West show, we all are mounted shooters,
Right.
um, for the most part. There's some other folks. I'm also trying to get more veterans involved, to take part in the mock gunfights. Um, I've got a bunch of extra equipment, extra gear, extra guns, and stuff like that. But I'm trying to do we'll call it air quotes here, a certification prior to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to have that rolling out here soon, where I'm going to try to get people together. If they want to be part of the Wild West show, they come and they kind of do the certification because, like, these are real guns we're using. We're shooting
Right.
blanks, but they're
Yeah.
real guns, and you need to understand how to use them, how they operate, how to like just how to be safe, right?
Right.
So we're
Yeah.
doing that. We're gonna have a rope and demo. We're doing all this stuff on August 9th, and like I so where I'm going with the social media part of it is I need to start promoting this event, right? It's now
Yep.
that when I do stuff, I should be taking pictures, I should be taking videos.
Yeah.
I'm busy doing, you know, I'm
Doing the thing.
I'm
Yeah.
doing the thing, and when I get done, I'm like, man, I didn't take any pictures. Oh man, I didn't take any
Yeah.
video. It's like because I'm busy doing it. I'm busy in the middle of it. Like so you're trying to do self promotion or promote an event or promote a thing, and I feel like we take so much time away to do that that
Yeah.
you don't enjoy the thing.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I've been trying to figure out how to do stuff like that too. I mean, just to go with like this podcast because it's backyard slinging, right?
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, you can sling a lot of things.
Right.
Baseball, football. You can
Oh
sling
yeah. Yeah.
arrows. You go to the range, you're slinging lead.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, but it's I don't. I've thought about getting like having like the GoPro and just clicking it on when
Oh
I
yeah.
start, or
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe or just having someone else, maybe like a sibling or like someone else's kid or something, just goes going around. Hey, you see something cool, just record it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
like, again, that it's just like, like with the mounted shooting, right? I'm
Yeah.
fortunate in mounted shooting that a lot of times in the bigger shoots, they have a photographer that comes and sells
Yep.
pictures, and a lot of times I'll get out and I'll record. You'll watch one another shoot, and someone will record you or you'll record them,
Yeah.
so you can post that. And then roping a dummy, like years ago, I tried to set up like camera equipment and tried to set up things to like you know uh, videotape me roping or take pictures of it, but like
Yep.
a lot of it I find I'm doing by myself, and that's the other
Yeah.
thing, right? I'm doing it by myself, so I always welcome anybody that wants to come. Like
Right.
I always welcome anybody that wants to come. You want to come hang out and rope? Let me know. We'll rope. You
Yep.
want to come hang out and like like you and I were talking prior right before we got started. One of the things I would like to do, and it would take a little coordination and take a little like planning and whatnot. But like as a mounted shooter, we shoot 45 long Colt
Yep.
pistols. We shoot we use blanks with our pistols, and then there's a shotgun class where we shoot a
Hmm.
double barrel shotgun. Um, a lot of times people will use 410s because it takes the 45 blank, it
Yeah.
accepts it. They use a 20 gauge with inserts or a 12 gauge with inserts. They shoot a rifle class, which is an 1800 period rifle.
Yeah.
Most people use the 1873s, and oddly enough, the 4440s seem to work the best
Okay.
for mounted shooting, because it handles a 5-in-1 blank better. And like these are all things that I've learned over time, and
Right.
people don't necessarily tell you that
Yeah.
right up
Definitely not.
front. Like you got to really ask, and you got to kind of dig into it a little bit. And I think a lot of it is that people don't, when you get good at something or you do it a bunch, you forget like little things.
Right.
Like you forget little things, and you forget like, you forget to say, okay, this,
Right.
that. You
Because it's
forget.
just so natural to you at
It's
that
so
point.
natural. It's so natural to you. It's like, okay, hey, and then so yeah. So anyway, what I was getting ready to say with that, because I just had another thought pop into my, like I said, there's so much you can talk
Oh.
about these things. So much
Yep.
about life, right? How
Yep.
life fits in, about how like you need to think about the little things in life, and you need to make sure you share the little things, and you need to make sure you ask questions of people, because you need to know where people are starting in their journey. Because they're probably not where you're at in your journey, and
Right.
if you're trying
Yep.
to teach them at your point in your journey, you're going to lose them. But anyway, what another thing I like to do, I would like to have like a range day. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of folks that I've seen this, and I don't know what the number is, but like I've heard people say with mounted shooting that they've never had a gun before they got into mounted shooting. And I'm just curious how many of them have fired it live, because it's a real gun.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'd like to do a range day, like, but again, in society nowadays, you got to be careful, because like you go, there's safety involved. There's like all
Yeah.
kinds of things
Yeah.
you got to take into consideration. People go out to the range and they're like, okay, you got to make sure everybody's safe, and that's part of why we do a lot of stuff with blanks. Um,
Yeah.
you can do it anywhere. Um, when we do our little ground stuff, where we do our like we'll set a mounted shooting course up and we'll run a course. Like another thing I do is I set a saddle up. I put
Yeah.
I'll set a saddle up and set some balloons up and shoot from a saddle. Like
Right. Yeah.
draw a pistol on a saddle stand and shoot blanks at a balloon on a saddle. And it's like, okay, this is what it feels like shooting out of a saddle. Now
Yeah.
think about a horse. Think about, yeah, like I said, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. But
Yeah.
I feel like and I feel like I'm kind of like jumping all over the place with all
Oh, that's
this. Like I
perfectly
said,
fine. People that are watching me should be used to that by now.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place with it, because like there's so many topics. There's so much you can talk about. There's so much you can do. There's so many there's so many directions you can go with all this. So I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't see why. I mean, you get your thing started, going on down there, and then like I was telling you, I met Lee Witcher a couple weeks ago, and he
Hmm.
like I tried roping and stuff before that, but he really was able to break it down and explain to me little things that I needed to do, and then after that, everything clicked. And then I was talking with him, and um, I know he's trying to. Him and other couple other guys are going to start trying to get some like roping stuff going on
Hmm.
up in like Charlestown area,
Yeah.
West Virginia. So maybe if I can find someone here in like the Winchester area that has like the land, and maybe they have cow or something, they'd be interested in the same stuff, we could have kind of like a little,
Yeah.
three
So
town circuit.
so there's some folks down in North Carolina, the Carolina Ranch Roping, the Carolina
Okay.
Ranch Ropers. It's an association that was started down there. And that's kind of what they did. They got together and they're like, "Hey, look, we want to do some ropings." And they put, I
Yeah.
think they're doing 4 this year. Unfortunately, the first one they had was in March, and I mean, I scheduled to go to Road to the Horse. Like
Hmm.
we do that every year. It's kind of become an annual thing, and just it's just a great time. And like I enjoy spending time with those folks. So I couldn't do both. Like I had to
Yeah.
pick and
Right.
choose.
Yeah.
I really wanted to go to their roping, but I couldn't. I had to choose. So the next one coming up is July 26th, and it's in Galax. I'm not sure exactly where it's at. I just saw it posted, but they have a circuit. They started a circuit where it's the Carolina Ranch Ropers Association, the Carolina Ranch Ropers. I don't think it's an association, but it is an association, but it's not. Anyway, they're on Facebook, and they're based pretty much out of North Carolina. There was some
Okay.
guys up in Pennsylvania, West Virginia that were trying to do something years ago, and I don't know whatever happened with that. It just kind of like I, I don't know whatever happened with it.
Right.
So it's good to see those guys trying to bring that back. I know there's some guys out in Ohio that they do one occasionally. They put one together. I think they're having one here soon. Um, but yeah, there's not a whole lot
The
on the
Yeah.
ranch roping front in Virginia. Um, and a lot of people, for people that don't know, ranch roping is there's more horsemanship and more art to it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's cow catching, and cow catching is utilitarian, right? It's you might throw a team roping shot, you might run cows through brush. It's a
Yep.
utilitarian. It is doing what you got to do, and that's wild cow catching. Now, ranch roping is there's a lot more that goes involved in it. It is based out of the Great Basin. That's where it comes from. It is, roe deer. It's throwing fancy shots, and it's it's based on horsemanship and your skill. And there's points
Right.
that go into it, and it's more of an art form. There's people that'll say, "Oh, fancy loops have no place in like daily work." Hey,
Some of
maybe.
them do.
I
I
mean,
mean,
some of them do. I mean, like
yeah.
if you're trying to, if there's a if if there's a steer or heifer that you're trying to that's bunched up and you're trying to pull one of them out to doctor them, and you're looking at them and they're all bunched up, and you need to catch one in the middle. You could throw a hula hand and drop a hula hand over that one in the middle,
Yep.
and then work it out of the group, right? But if you're trying to catch one that's running, it's a different shot, right? And
Right.
that's the thing. There's different. It's like anything else. There's application that the application. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, You're not gonna. You're not gonna paint a. You're not gonna paint a portrait with a house painting brush.
Right.
You're just not gonna do it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go out there and like, oh, I'm gonna do this, but yeah. But anyway, so yeah, so that they've got an association that does that down in North Carolina. It'd be great to get something like that going here, because
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually you expand that
Yep.
and you get people together. But like,
So yeah, we're all just kind of working towards the same thing, I think.
yeah, and the
So
big thing is getting everybody together to
yep.
where to getting everybody together in a common goal. Like I
Yeah.
mean, and it's kind of like you got to get everybody together in a common to everybody's working towards the same thing, but like it's got to be like, okay, it's you know, I'm a firm believer that ego has no place in horses,
Yeah.
but there's ton of that in horses,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
and you
I
know,
definitely got a good story about that one.
oh, I'm sure we
Gosh,
all do. I'm sure we all do, but like
man.
Ego has no place in horses, and like, but the problem is when you start trying to get a group of folks together, you know, you're like, oh,
That's good. You're gonna run into that depending on the people.
yeah,
You kind of have to get uh, not only everyone that wants to get to the same place, but you all have to have kind of the same mentality about it.
right. And like, and when someone, if someone gets better than you and
That's,
you've helped them along the way,
that's great. Yeah,
that's wonderful. And
yeah,
I can't tell you how many people that I've seen. Again, perception's everything. Perception is reality, right? You perceive it. Perception's reality. Um, and if you're trying to teach someone how to do something and they start getting better at it than you are, and then you stop, or you're like, you only teach them enough to where they're
right.
okay,
Yeah,
then then that's doing them an injustice. And then the
yeah,
same token, if you are a student and you are learning from someone and you're like, oh, I'm better than you are now, I don't need you anymore,
right.
then then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's like, okay, as a student, you're like, oh, thank you, okay, because you're always gonna have you always it's always great to have someone to come back to and be like, hey,
Yes, yeah,
I'm learning this problem, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know why this is not working for me.
yeah. And that those people, they're watching you, and then they're going to be able to help you see something that you're not seeing. Um, for me, like I played baseball like my whole life, and it was always my mom or grandfather. I'd say something like, "Oh, I didn't, so I'm doing something's not working," and then they're like, "Oh, well, your hands have gotten lower, and you just bring your hands back up, and then it's just something simple,
Right.
and it's like, oh, okay, well now everything's working great again."
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and that's kind of where, again, going back to like kind of what I was doing with Operation Tacked Up, or what I'd like to do with Operation Tacked Up rather,
Yeah,
is like the camaraderie that comes with that, and sharing that with one another, right?
yeah,
Where that's where the military comes in, and like, again, having that brotherhood, sisterhood, where you're like, where you're there to hold one another up. It's
yeah,
not like, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's not a look at me
right,
and look how good I am. It's like, how good can we all be together, right?
exactly,
And
yeah,
like I mean, I've been shooting for a while now, mounted shooting, and I'm still a level 1 shooter. And you know, I don't. I mean, so the mounted shooting is broken into. And I'll do a brief rundown of mounted shooting. Mounted
okay,
shooting is broken
yeah,
down in level 1 through level 6, right? Everybody starts out in mounted shooting. They're level 1. Um, and the rules, I think it states in the rule book, it's like, it's like inexperienced horseman or inexperienced shooter or something. Like, it's the way it reads. It's like, okay, you're brand new. You're brand new to the game. You're brand new to all of it. And a lot of people come into it and they're not brand new to all of it. They're brand new to the
yeah,
sport, right? And as a level 1, I am. I'm able to. You know, uh, uh, coming into it, I'm able to get to get the experience to become better in the sport,
yeah,
not
yeah,
necessarily experience to become a better horseman.
right,
Um, but there are certain things that apply, right? Certain things that
yeah,
apply as a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. As you get faster, you get better, and there's things that you need to know how to do, right?
right.
And I've just never, I think over the years, I've never really kind of like, I do it to have fun. I
Right.
don't do it to
Which
be
that should always, I think that should always be the first thing.
right. I do it to have fun. And I think so many people, you know, don't get me wrong, it's fun when you win.
Oh yeah, for
It's
sure.
fun when you win. It's fun when you go and you show up and you have a great day and you do whatever, but like, I do it because it's fun. And
Right.
like, I
Yeah.
go out there and like, and it took me coming to that before I got to where I felt like I was getting better.
Right.
I was like, I'm doing this for fun. I don't really care enough.
Yeah, I think for sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
cut you
no,
off
no,
here a
no,
little
no,
bit,
no, no, no,
but
no, no,
like
no, no. That's
so
fine.
like with like the fun thing, you're not as worried about keeping like just structure and the rigidity. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
kind of like when you're having fun, you're looser, you're more open to trying something different, and then that's gonna help you build and progress as well.
Right, right. And and like I said, I mean, again, all these are topics that we can go down rabbit holes on and just discuss, but like, that's just kind of one of the things where, you know, like like this being an initial conversation about all this and just kind of starting and
Yeah,
jumping
yeah,
all over the place. But yeah, I mean, so I mean, we can talk about this all day long, but I
yeah,
mean, if anybody's interested and anybody wants to like wants to learn more about any of this stuff, there's a local Manna shooting club in the area. It's First Virginia Manna Shooting.
yep,
Um, Again, there's like there is Carolina Ranch Ropers is down in North Carolina. They do some events. There's a couple of places, like there's a couple of folks in the valley that do lessons, and I'm happy to share any of that information. I'm happy to share it all. um it'd be nice, like I know there's a gentleman up in a friend of mine uh up in the valley up around Winchester. He's starting a group. It's called Spur of the Moment.
okay.
And basically he's trying to connect all the, like, all the western stuff. He's trying to connect it all together for people that, like,
That'd be
like,
awesome.
yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's on Facebook as well.
For those different associations and stuff, if I can't find them, just like text me like the link to
Yeah,
them, and I'll
yeah,
I'll throw them in the
yeah,
description of this video
yeah,
so people
definitely.
can
Yeah, and
find them nice and easy.
and then anybody's welcome to reach out to me for any of the stuff they want to, if they want to do stuff. And like,
Right. Yeah.
like I have my personal Facebook page, and then I have an Operation Tacked Up Facebook page. Um, what I asked, um, folks, is if you send me a friend request, because there's so much spam and there's so much stuff,
Yeah.
send me
Yeah.
a message. Just
Right.
send me a quick message and say, hey, this is how I heard about you. This is who I am. I'm sending you a friend request, because I've gotten some random stuff where I'm like,
Yeah.
you look
Yep.
real, but who are you and where did you come from? So,
Right.
but anyway,
Yep.
yeah,
All right. Well, about ready to wrap it up here,
yeah,
but I do
yeah,
have a couple questions for you.
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
try to ask most of the guests I have on, except I missed a couple of them. But these are kind of questions I kind of ask everyone. So the first one's, what's your favorite movie?
Everybody always goes out there and says Lonesome Dove is my favorite movie. Lonesome Dove. I like Lonesome Dove. It's a good movie. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if I had to pick a favorite movie, I think it'd be Monty Walsh with Tom Selleck.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because it's about the dying of it's about the end of the cowboy era.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
really, I've read the book, and you know, I think Monty Walsh is probably, like, that's probably one of my favorites.
All right. All right. So, all right. Last question here.
Okay, go.
All right. So you're in a room and there's one door. All right. One way in, one way out. What's the biggest animal that you could take in a fight? No weapons. It's just you and the animal. Biggest animal.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, people are like tiger or lion. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some pretty nasty possums. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I've
Oh,
seen some
yeah,
pretty nasty possums.
definitely.
I don't know. I mean, probably me and an animal.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's a good one. I mean,
Let's see. Some prior answers we've had on here. We've had one that was changed. His my friend's initial answer was mountain lion. I'm like, and then he changed it to a coyote. And then we had a small black bear was another answer.
I don't know. I mean, like, I mean, I like in a no weapons in a room trying to. I mean, I overthink everything, and I'm sorry. I do overthink
Oh yeah.
everything, and like I'm sitting here going, okay, a coyote. Okay, have you ever been bit by a dog? It hurts. You
Yep.
know, there's a
Yeah.
reason why they use Malinois with the military. I mean, like, yeah,
Yep.
maybe. I mean, there is a technique that they teach to disable a sentry dog. You know, I mean, there's a technique but you need a knife. You're not going
Yeah.
to do it with
Yeah.
your bare hands because they have claws. I mean, I'm thinking like, a house cat, maybe. Like my answer would be a
Yeah.
house cat. I might be able to
Yeah.
take out a house cat or a mouse, but like you start getting
Right.
into the bigger animals, I mean, I mean, Hugo Glass, if you know the story of Hugo Glass, I mean,
Uh-huh.
we saw how that went with a grizzly bear, like it's,
Yep.
people say all the time, they're like, "Oh, I could take out this and take out that." Until you've been in encountered with that. I mean, like, I'm
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I would honestly be realistic and be like, I mean, I think I could hold my own and get away, but like, you never
Right.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
until you're
Yeah.
put in that situation. And the other thing you have to think of too is like your will to live, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to turn that question back on you and say, okay, how strong is your will to live? Because
Right. Yeah.
if your will to live is strong, then it doesn't matter what animals in there, you're fighting for your life. And
Exactly. Yeah.
it's your will to live, man. It's like, you throw a lion in there and, um, you go back to, look at the Bible and, hey, thrown in the lion's den. It's so instead of killing it, try to try to try to uh, try to pacify it enough to get to the door to get out.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I don't know, man. Th- That
Well.
that that's a good thought provoking question though. I like it.
Yeah. And you know where I got that one from?
Where's that?
And I've said it before. Like I straight up just stole that one from Dale Brisby.
Oh,
He used
I
he used
was
to
like,
ask that a lot.
I was like, I've heard that before. Where have I heard that from? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that question because, like you said, like definitely, you know, some people are real quick about it, and then other people are like, oh, you really got to think about it.
Right.
So
Exactly. I
yeah,
mean, like if it was just a matter of like, oh, what could I, uh, you know, I, I don't know. But then you think about what's your will to live? Like, what? I mean,
yep,
how strong is your will to live?
exactly,
And is it a matter of do you have to kill it or can you just try to get out of the room?
right.
Because like, I don't know.
That changes it. Yeah.
Right. That changes a lot. Like, do you need, it's like dealing with a horse, right?
Oh yeah.
gotta calm yourself down a little bit. Okay. But
Yep.
well,
Well,
that was a fun
yeah.
question, man. That was a fun question. Thanks.
Oh
Thanks
yeah,
for
yeah,
asking
no
that one. That
problem.
was cool.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you, Mark, for
Yeah, yeah. Thanks
coming
for
on
having
here.
me.
And
Like I said,
oh yeah, no problem. We'll definitely have to do it again. And like I said, we can kind of narrow it down, like on certain aspects
yeah,
of roping or mountain shooting and stuff like that. And maybe we can even get Lee on here at the
yeah,
same time,
yeah,
and
yeah.
talk roping and maybe try to mesh what we're all trying to do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. I mean, like I said, I mean, Lee and I have been friends on Facebook for a long time. I mean, I met him at a couple of opens years ago, and
Yeah.
I just kind of I would love to reconnect with those guys. And there was some stuff going on up in that area, and then it just kind of like I don't really know what happened with it, but it just kind
Yeah.
of like it kind of died off a little bit. And now, I'm seeing some stuff coming back a little bit, and it's going to be nice to see. It's going to be, I really enjoy doing that. That's
I
a lot of
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of horsemanship involved. There's a lot of finesse involved, and it just kind of, it's really, I think it really challenges yourself, and it challenges your horse because there's just a lot to it, man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, we'll get in that one on the
yeah.
next one.
Cool.
All right. Well, everybody that's watching, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. All right, we'll see y'all next time.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep, no problem, y'all.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every